Welcome to this edition of OBBM Network Weekly News, brought to you by Offbeat Business Media. Today we're going to give you a close-up look at your DFW community, chamber and local events, as well as Texas policy discussions and policy information.
And as usual, in this episode, you're going to learn about ESG and how it affects your business and your life through the tech industry, and as well as commentary on global events and how they figure into your DFW life and your business.
OBBM Weekly News is brought to you by Offbeat Business Media, LLC, the engine behind the OBBM Network and your local business advocates in all things media.
And you know, Susan, without successful local business, what would America really look like today?
Well, I'll tell you what, television, podcast, and advertising make the significant difference. And today, you're not limited to mainstream media that doesn't support your family, your life, your business, or your values. In this episode, we're going to be talking about all kinds of really fabulous things with news and local events. We've got a special for you. We're going to be talking to Farmers Branch mayor candidate Terry Lynn. So I know a lot of you have heard his name before, so get used to that. We're going to be talking about just the wide range of what's going on in our community. We'll be right back to get started. The OBBM Network is the premier voice for local business, and we take that responsibility seriously. The OBBM Network has everything you need to grow and transition your business for success on popular syndicated podcast networks, Roku and other video channels, and the OBBM Network app. We work for you, local business, and we've got your back. We're back, and today we have a treat for you because you need to know what's going on in the local election community for city councils and mayor's races. We got Terry Lynn today, who's got 6 years with the Farmers Branch City Council, and now he's running for mayor. Welcome, Terry.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, good morning. I guess you just tossed your hat in, yesterday?
Well, I actually started about 6 weeks ago, really.
Oh, you did? Okay.
It was sort of under the weather, but under the radar, rather, I'm sorry. But it's been really exciting. There's been a big movement over the last couple of years of constituents asking me to run. They're a little tired and frustrated with what's happening, not only nationally, but even locally. Right. And so about 6 weeks ago, I actually started my campaign informally, but I formally announced yesterday.
Well, obviously we're familiar with Terry because he is a frequent visitor to so many local events and particularly chamber events that and
we're located right here in Farmers Branch.
Yes,
so one of the things that you always like to bring out is, hey, you may not live here, but you work here. And so you want to make sure that we're all well aware of who represents us. So we appreciate that.
Well, and for anybody watching, we have homes for sale here in Farmers Branch. So please consider moving here. It's a great place to live.
So we're all about small business and local business, right? And part of the reason we enjoy your visits to the chamber is because you really bring focus to local business and the importance of what local business brings to our local communities like Farmers Branch. Can you give us a little bit about that for our business people?
Absolutely. Local businesses play a huge part in most any city's life, and especially here in Farmers Branch. Local businesses pay about 74% of what it takes for us to run the city.
Oh my gosh,
in
that's
taxes.
A lot of money.
It's huge. And guess what? They're paying taxes here, but they don't get to vote.
Well, you just don't think about that, do you? You're exactly right.
So when I go to Chamber of Commerce meetings or I'm talking with business leaders, I'm constantly telling them how important it is for them to reach out, get to know their city council representatives, get to know their mayor, because, again, you're paying taxes here, but you don't have a vote. You need to have that advocate, and that's what I've tried to do over the last 6 years that I was on city council. Attend chamber meetings, make sure that business owners knew me and that I knew them and was there to help them with any issue that they might have.
You know, we really enjoy educating the business community about what's going on in government because we are really unaware. We're unaware of how the city works often, and it can be different between communities. So just help us understand a little bit in Farmers Branch. And what is the breakdown and what is the role of mayor here?
So the mayor is, in my mind, he's the chief marketing ambassador of the city. He runs the city council meetings. He's a part of the city council, but the mayor does not run the city by himself. We actually have, well, the council should be the ones that are running the city, and we actually have a city manager who oversees the day-to-day operations and is over all of the employees that the city has. So the mayor is the public face, but everybody on council should be a public face. The mayor is instrumental in helping to recruit businesses. He should be working with our development partners and with our economic development department to help recruit businesses and events to our city.
So I wonder, do you cast a deciding vote?
The mayor only votes when there's a tie.
Okay.
And because we have 5 members on our city council, it's rare, but every once in a while it does happen.
I'm also wondering, what's that relationship then with the city manager? He's an employee. Who does he answer to?
So
She.
the city manager answers to all of the city council and the mayor. So he basically has 6 bosses. And it's probably the best way or form of government for a city like us, so you don't have every council person calling every department head telling them to do something different. If we want something done,
Very good.
we funnel everything through the city manager. And then the city manager is over all of the staff. He's over all city employees, the police chief and the fire chief.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, how did you prepare yourself for this?
Well, I will say answer this 2 ways. A city manager needs to be well-versed in many, many disciplines. A council person, or a mayor for that fact, needs to invest themselves in the city before they just run for a job, in my estimation. What I did, I never really set out to run for city council, but I was interested in how our city ran, and I got appointed to a charter review commission, which was really interesting because that sort of sets the ground rules of what any elected official can do and how the city operates. So charter review is very important. We do that every 5 years, basically. And changes to the city charter need to be voted on by the taxpayers.
Excellent.
From that, I was appointed to be head of our Building and Standards Commission, and that board heard all of the code compliance cases that code enforcement wrote, and they were able to assess fines to people who were violators of code ordinances. That board has since been abolished by the state Supreme Court, but it was really fun and interesting. After that, I was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and zoning, you learn about everything going on in the city, and it was really fascinating. You get to hear about everything. Nobody really yells at you, but you're in the know. And from that is when I decided to run for city council, because the representative for my district was not seeking re-election. And nobody had stepped up to run. And so some people said, you should do this. You'd be really good. And
So you understand the way it works with our fire departments and our police departments as well. Speak a little bit to that.
so before I got elected to city council, I actually came to the realization if I'm going to be on city council, because I knew if I ran, I'd win, but if I'm going to serve on council and be responsible for police and fire budgets, I need to know how they operate.
Yeah.
In Farmers Branch, we offer a Citizens Police Academy and a Citizens Fire Academy. Extremely interesting. Behind-the-scenes look at how both departments work. They're open to our citizens. They do them once a year. You can sign up for it. It's free, but it's fascinating. And it really helped me get a deeper understanding of both departments and what their needs were more than anything else.
Yeah, you've got some interesting connections. I mean, when you pull back the veil of Terry Lynn and the public-facing, handshaking fellow that we get to meet in these public arenas, there's a lot more to you. There's a lot more depth. Tell us what we don't know.
I was going to say, and when we before he answers that question, that's one thing that whenever Terry speaks at one of our events or meetings, he's speaking from a point of knowledge, right?
Right.
It's not that he isn't aware. He needs to circle back for an answer. He knows it because he's experienced most of these things, and he took the time and effort to do it. And I've served on a planning and zoning. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I always encourage people to get involved in their city.
It's
various parts of their city in aspects.
I think it's really important when you have the opportunity to get involved, especially with a small city. You have such an impact. Your voice is just amplified so much more in a small city like ours with 35,000 people. Dallas offers opportunities for residents to get involved also, but because of the size of the city, it's very difficult to get anything done. And I really think that's one of the unique things that we have to offer our residents. We want their input. But if you're going to sign up and do something, if you're going to volunteer, you really need to get invested. You need to learn. You need planning and zoning. There's a lot of reading of materials. You know that.
Yes, there is.
And you can't just show up for a meeting and expect to make a good decision for your city. You need to invest. You need to do your homework and study and take note of other things that are going on, not only in your city, but around you too.
So you've decided to run for mayor. I know you well enough to know that you don't make a decision like that without having reasons for wanting to do it. So what's on your bucket list for Farmers Branch? What are you hoping to achieve as your...
Well, this was not a decision I took lightly. I served 6 years on city council. I did not get done everything that I wanted to try to achieve. And so I figured I need to take the next step. I have to do this. And fortunately, many residents felt the same way and are supporting me. But first and foremost is customer service and accountability. I've been a salesperson my whole life, so I have worked as customer service. I did not achieve the status that I achieved in the private sector by not super serving my customers. And when I was elected to council, I took that same attitude that the residents were my customers. And when they had an issue, a problem, whatever, I always called them back. I answered every communication. I will give you an answer. You may not like the answer, but you will always get a response. I never ignored anybody. But my goal, my passion, I think, is really taking care of my customers. And again, I viewed residents that same way. We also have to be accountable. Every elected official should be accountable to the residents of the city.
Yes.
And you should not be afraid to answer questions or meet with residents. If you're on your game, if you know what it is you're supposed to know, it's not hard.
I'm glad you mentioned accountability, because that's, and I think your pedigree in the private sector helps with that. I know the president of our Farmers Branch Chamber, Grace Beast, she comes to us from the private sector as well. And you just have something different when you come from that point, because you are accountable, right? You have to make sure your customers are satisfied and make sure you service them well. And it, as opposed to maybe something where you're not always forced to be accountable in a bureaucratic situation. Often you just think all you have to do is show up, and you don't just show up. You got to actually do something when you show up.
You can't show up and be an empty suit. People will see right through that. But if you're prepared, if you've invested time and effort to study and learn about issues, residents appreciate that. They want knowledgeable people to represent them. You can't represent them if you're not out amongst them, listening to what's important to them, hearing their concerns. So you have to do that. But I spent 31 years in the private sector selling and managing sales staffs. 25 of those 31 years were in the broadcasting business, working for radio stations, selling airtime. I know how to take care of customers. But I also know how important it is that you're sincere in what you do, because people will see right through that. Going the extra mile to make sure residents are informed about things that are going on in the city. I'm the only council person ever that puts out their own newsletter. I do that every month to try to let people know what's going on in the city. It's really important. I had 5 town hall meetings while I was on city council. I'm not afraid to answer questions. I may not have every answer, and if I don't, I will find out and get back to you. But that's what I believe the residents expect of us as their representative.
Now, as devil's advocate, I'm going to ask you a hard question.
Okay.
Because not everything is simple and you can solve it, as you mentioned. Sometimes we are realizing a change has to happen in our favor. Sometimes we want to know who our champion is, and we want to know whether or not you've got the salt to look at a scenario, consider what you're hearing, because I'm hearing you say and you're listening. If that's the case, and we bring something to you that's necessary to really look at closer and see if we can enhance it, improve it, reject it, change something that's a bad idea that's currently happening, are you that guy?
I believe so. And let me give you an example. And this is probably a very difficult example. We have an issue along our southern border of our city, which is we share with Dallas, and it's homeless individuals.
Yeah.
They're encamped all along 635, and we have a 6-mile border with Dallas. Our residents were complaining about the homeless situation because when you're coming from Dallas to Farmers Branch, they're at our front door. And when you're going from Farmers Branch to Dallas, well, that's the first thing you see. This was a problem. The homeless individuals are on City of Dallas property. Underneath 635 is City of Dallas property. I reached out to LBJ Express, the Dallas Office of Homeless Solutions, the Dallas Police, and a number of others, including Councilman Jennifer Staubach Gates and Omar Navarez. And we had a meeting at the LBJ Express offices on how to address the homeless issue, because along with just the congregation of people is all the mess that comes along with that, all the trash that comes along with that. It was really a problem. Again, this is a problem on City of Dallas property. Farmers Branch does not have the right to do anything about it. But because I advocated so loudly for our residents, I was able to start a program where LBJ Express was periodically making sweeps of the area to help clean up and move homeless folks along. It wasn't just run them off. These are people. And we have to realize that these are people.
Thank you. I appreciate that insight.
They are people. And this situation, as difficult as it is, needs to be handled in a very humane way. We did not just try to move people. We had the Dallas Office of Homeless Solutions that was willing to take folks to a shelter, get them cleaned up, get them fed, get them some clothing, try to enlist them in some type of program where they could get some education so they can get jobs. Now, there are the professional panhandlers that are out there,
Well, sure.
and there are also people who are homeless who don't want
That's true.
any help. But I think we've had a huge effect on what has been occurring on our southern border of our city. It's not perfect, but it's a lot different than what it used to be.
Well, you won't be able to solve it at all without the cooperation between someone in your capacity and the private sector and the local businesses working together to find real solutions. I know here at OBBM, we are creating everything that we're doing to be an employment solution for high-risk profiles. And so we've got those large agendas, and we're not the only ones that are looking at this situation going, what can be done, so that you're moving people through life to the next level rather than just placating the scenario and allowing it to stay the same. And it does impact all of us. How do you do that well? I don't have the answer. I just know we have to know who those people are to have those conversations and start moving the needle in that direction.
And we've had that discussion here before when we just do this overarching name of the homeless, which is a misnomer for everything. It's such a group of subgroup individuals, whether that be mentally ill or true homeless or just out of a job, or those that it's just made up of all these different things. And unless you kind of decide to fix the problem, right, by going after the root causes of all these issues, putting Band-Aids on them is not going to help.
And that's just one scenario, because there's other things like signage. Like we hear the city come in and say, well, you know what, we made these great big deals for these large corporations, but we wonder, is somebody going to be there taking care of the needs of the local business community when we come in with the same request?
Exactly.
Do we have that same kind of clout with you? And you couldn't possibly have that if we don't have a relationship with the city council, with the mayor, and recognize the validity of that.
Which brings up the earlier point. I think if we talked to any of the constituents out there, whether it be just the citizenry or a business owner, it's they want to remind people that you are representing the majority. Right. Not the special interest groups. Whether that special interest group is a single company that comes in and demands huge things in order to resurface here or relocate here, your job is to benefit the entire of the community, not just these special interest groups.
And that's so true. We have 37,000 residents here in Farmers Branch, but we have over 4,000 businesses. And businesses, again, they pay a majority of the freight of what it costs to run the city. Their voice is important. And the chamber is the small business advocate.
Yes, it is.
And I would encourage all of our businesses to join the chamber. It's important, and I believe that we have a really dynamic chamber. I've been involved with it for a long time, even before I was on city council. So we need to have that, but yes, we're trying to run the city for the majority of the folks. Another thing, as I mentioned, 37,000 residents, but during the day, our working and daytime population is over 100,000 in Farmers Branch.
Oh, wow.
So
that's so much.
We swell up during the day,
Yeah,
but then at night they all sort of the tide
But that's
recedes.
a testament to the nature of the city being as business oriented as it is, because we employ a lot of people within the city of Farmers Branch. So we're at OBBM, we're always trying to educate, right? And part of that is educating about the election process. So why don't you tell our audience, what's the next steps? What do they look for? When is the election? Are there any other milestones they need to be watching for between now and then?
Well, so our election, I'm going to tell you, vote for Terry, but our election for mayor, and we have one council seat up, those will be next May of 2023. So I'm just starting my campaign very early. Prior to that, we have the November elections, in which we'll be electing state representatives, county officials, district attorney, whatnot. I think there's some judges up and whatnot. So November, very important month. Everybody needs to get out and vote. And then next May will be centered on local elections, and that will be local city council races, and probably some school district races also.
Are there primaries for the office of mayor? Do you do primary elections?
No. Your local elections are nonpartisan, and school board elections are nonpartisan by design, and that is why they are held separately from the November elections. So we want the best people elected, regardless of party, locally. And so we don't have primaries. Folks will be out campaigning and doing what they do to try to get elected. But then when May comes, you have your election, and if need be, there may be a runoff, but that's it.
Wonderful. So much to cover.
It really is too much. Do you have any other?
Oh, I think we've got a
questions
lot
for
of great
Terry?
stuff. If we've covered anything that you wanted the audience to know.
Yeah, what's the last parting thoughts here?
I'm thinking he had a really easy way to help fund his campaign. Would you like to share that?
Absolutely, I would. So I do have a website. It's called electterrylynn.com. I'm asking every resident in Farmers Branch for $20. I'm not trying to buy an election. I want to show people I know how to manage money. I'm a small business owner. I know how to manage money. And it's important. I want people to be involved in the process. I want people to feel like they have a voice back at City Hall. And with their help, we will make those changes and keep our city growing and keep that city in a park feel.
Very good.
Wonderful. Well, Larry, we'll be right back.